Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday. It is November 18th. We're happy to have you joining us here at KTTC for another edition of Morning Pulse. I'm Kelsey Marier, your host and producer. First things right off the bat, you may be wondering why some of your internet services aren't working. Well, that's because apparently there is an outage affecting the company called Cloudflare. It's disrupting a lot of internet services like ChatGPT, X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as some other things, including some of the things that I use right here for Morning Pulse. Obviously, we're bringing you a digital broadcast, and for digital things, we need to use the internet. And so if you notice that we don't have the graphics that I put up on the screen right about here, it's because that service, that application that we use for this broadcast is being affected by that outage right now. So I don't have a fix for that at the moment. However, I can tell you that there is an outage that's causing some major disruptions this morning for parts of the internet, and this is for people all around the entire world. Again, some of the things that are affected right now: ChatGPT, X, Twitter, and League of Legends. So apparently it's kind of a big deal. It kind of reminds me of the outage that we had a few months ago, I believe, similar to that. So hopefully that's getting resolved. But no worries, just because I don't have the graphics up here for you doesn't mean that I can't bring you the information and the stories of the day. So with that, I'm going to bring you those stories. We have two news stories, and then technically our third news story is weather, because weather is and was kind of the big story for our day today. And so I want to make sure that I touch on that. So we are going to get started with our first news story today. And again, no graphics, but if you just listen up closely here, I'll be able to tell you exactly what is going on. So taking you up to the Twin Cities for our first story this morning, because more than 200 Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport food service workers are planning or threatening to go on strike 3 days before Thanksgiving. That is, if a deal with their employer is not reached. So we have learned that 12 businesses across both terminals would be affected by this potential strike. That includes Starbucks, Shake Shack, Chili's, even Chick-fil-A, popular restaurants for sure. The workers are represented by the Minnesota Hospitality Union called Unite Here Local 17. And these union members say that their contract with their employer, HMS, it expired last December, and that both parties have been negotiating for the past 11 months, almost a year, for a new contract. Those union workers are saying that they're asking for a significant wage increase or increases and some lower health insurance costs. The union and its employer are currently about $1 apart in the negotiations, but again, this could potentially affect travelers to and from Minneapolis, in the Minneapolis airport, the international airport up in the cities. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully they can come to a resolution for a new contract here. Otherwise, there could be some disruptions next week, which of course, as we know, is Thanksgiving. So just wanted to bring you an update on that, potentially, if you are going to be traveling out of state by the air next week. So just something to keep in mind for sure. All right, our next story, we are taking you into Rochester, because today thousands of Rochester students are going to be learning about careers in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. What does that stand for? STEAM. That's because we're talking about the 2025 STEAM Summit. It's taking place today at the RCTC Regional Sports Center. You may be wondering, what is this? Well, it's a place, an event where kids can connect with business professionals and learn all about future career opportunities for them. So the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce is putting this on. It has invited more than 100 different exhibitors, businesses, companies, to give students all around the area a chance to explore some in-demand job opportunities right here at home, specifically, including higher education, local government, business, etc. So the STEAM Summit, again, for these middle and high schoolers, happening from 9:30 until 1:30 today. So in just about an hour is when that gets started. And from the video in this past year, when this video was, from one of the previous years that we covered this, it looks like a lot of fun and a lot of variety in the kinds of jobs that are presented to these kids. So that's pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to bring you our third story of the day, which of course is weather. So today we have a first alert weather day, and that is because there was the potential for kind of a winter storm to come through. As we know in the Midwest, weather is always changing. So even though we had been reporting that there was the potential for parts of our area to get an inch or more of snow, well, Mother Nature can change course, and that is just the way it is. Obviously, we have a team of meteorologists that are tracking all of that. So we did see a lot more of wet weather instead of snowy weather this morning, which is a good thing, a good change to have, because we weren't having as many crazy road conditions or any icy things, or we weren't accumulating all this snow. However, I do want to show you meteorologist Ted Schmidt's weather forecast because he has a really in-depth breakdown of just all the things that you need to know, including maybe some road conditions and just things throughout the day and for the week ahead regarding the weather, specifically though surrounding this first alert day. So I'm going to play that for you now, and then I will wrap things up after that.
Alert weather with meteorologist Ted Schmidt.
Cool and wet day so far. We've had plenty of rainfall, quite a bit of it since midnight, and it's been just rain. It's the first alert day as we look for the possibility of a switch over to snow in parts of the area, mainly north of Rochester. But for now, just a wet morning. Gray skies and wet pavement. That's the view from downtown Rochester. That's our Lewis auto camera. Also, some of our other cameras in the network would look at gray skies, damp droplets in the camera lens, wet pavement, and some gray conditions going on this morning. Temperatures mainly in the 30s. They've actually moved up a degree since top of the broadcast a couple hours ago. It's 34 right now. Feels like 27, mainly mid-30s. And with that going on, hard to have snow to develop. In fact, the moisture content in the atmosphere, the dew point, is right at or above the freezing mark. With that, as the current situation, really hard for snow to develop. And time, though, there is likely to be some dynamically cool atmospheric conditions going on north of the area, so we may see a change over to some snow here. Next 2 or 3 hours, possibility of a brief switch over to snow, but right now we're looking at rain and maybe some snow, mainly north in the area for the potential of some slick spots on roads with slush conditions developing, especially those elevated surfaces, those bridges, overpasses, off-ramps, rooftops. Look for maybe some minor accumulation still this morning in some areas, but not so much in Rochester, definitely not southward. We are seeing some bit of a change over, some of that blue showing up here on the radar map. So it's rain with a little wet, snowy elements showing up at this point. That's beginning to see that process of that happening, but for the most part, rain and just nuisance slush in the area at this hour. Temperatures still above freezing, so things would be melting on pavement level anyway. But gray skies, low pressure nearby, periods of rain in our weather picture. Since midnight, quite a bit of rainfall. The wettest day so far of the month happening on just the past few hours here in Rochester. Officially 49 hundredths of an inch of rainfall. 2/3 of an inch of rain in Preston. This is impressive. Just since midnight, quite a bit of rainfall there. 18 hundredths in Charles City, Iowa, and 15 hundredths of an inch in Decorah. Looking ahead at the rest of this morning, rain switches over to rain and snow mix for a couple of hours from 8 to 10 o'clock. Look for a little bit of rain tapering off right around noon. If there's any snow accumulation, it's north in the area. Trace to maybe half an inch on those elevated surfaces. Red Wing maybe a little more than half an inch, but at this point, a light coating of snow, of wet snow that is, in the future at the very most. But here's Future Track today. That band of activity has moved northward. That's where it's still positioned at this hour, and that's what we're looking for, the switch over to snow as that colder air mixes in. Atmosphere dynamically cooled. We drop from rain to snow in some spots for a couple of hours, with minor coating of accumulation be impacting those elevated surfaces this morning. Temperatures steady in the mid-30s, drying out the afternoon across the map. A brisk east breeze, temperatures in the upper 30s. Coldest high temperature of the week today, and probably the grayest day of the week for that matter. Temperatures the low 30s later tonight. And tomorrow, low 40s for temperatures. A lot of clouds holding on, but there's clearing to the west that will come in for Thursday, and by then we begin to see some sunshine and a warm-up. But today, the wettest day of the week by far. Rain and wet snow this morning, drying out for not just this afternoon, but the next several days. And temperatures after this, generally a little bit above the seasonal average. Normally, it'd be around 40, be in the low and mid-40s, maybe even upper 40s by the weekend, with increasing rounds of sunshine in our future. But today, gray skies, a brisk east breeze, 37. Rain and snow in the morning across the map. Rochester, Mason City, Austin, right around the upper 30s to near 40. A few degrees colder than the seasonal average, but in many ways not unusual for the second half of November. Tonight, 31, mostly cloudy with light winds. A 7-day forecast, 40s after this with increasing rounds of sun and a nice looking weekend.